there's a country sitting at the very center of Central Asia, one that covers more ground than all of Western Europe put together. And most people couldn't point to it on a map, let alone name a single place within its borders. And if you keep passing it by, you're walking away from landscapes so otherworldly they look like concept art, and a history so ancient it was already old when the Silk Road was young. In this video, we're going to start by unpacking some genuinely staggering facts about Kazakhstan, the kind of details that don't make it into guidebooks. And then we'll move through the country's most breathtaking and mysterious corners, stop by stop. Fair warning, the further in we get, the more unbelievable it becomes. Let's talk scale first, because nothing prepares you for it. Well, Kazakhstan doesn't just qualify as large, it qualifies as one of the largest countries to ever exist. We're talking about roughly 1.05 million square miles of territory. Lay all of Western Europe across a map. And Kazakhstan still has room to spare. Yet somehow, despite all that space, the population is remarkably thin on the ground. We're talking just a few people per square mile on average. The result? Vast stretches of untouched wilderness, horizons that never seem to end, and a quiet so total it almost has a texture. But don't mistake that silence for emptiness. It's covering centuries of stories. Start with space, literally. The Baikonur Cosmodrome, buried deep in the Kazakhstani desert, is the oldest and largest functional spaceport on the planet. As it was from this remote patch of steppe that Yuri Gagarin launched in 1961 and became the first human being to reach orbit. That's not ancient history kept behind glass. Rockets still lift off from Baikonur today, cutting through the atmosphere and heading for the stars. A piece of the space age, still operational, sitting in the middle of nowhere. But while Kazakhstan points upward toward the future, its roots reach just as deep into the past. Somewhere in the endless steppe lies one of the most astonishing archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. The Golden Man. A Scythian warrior entombed over 2 millennia ago beneath a burial mound near the village of Issyk, dressed head to toe in armor, assembled from more than 4,000 individual pieces of hammered gold. He was found in 1969. His real name has never been recovered, but he became the face of an ancient civilization most of the world had entirely forgotten. A symbol of raw power from a time before written records. And speaking of civilizations lost to time, have you ever heard of the Saka? These nomadic tribes dominated the steppes long before empires, like Rome or China, were thinking about expansion. Fierce, mobile, and deeply skilled, both on horseback and, apparently, in the art of tattooing. Archaeologists pulled mummies from permafrost burial sites in Kazakhstan, and the skin was so well preserved that intricate, detailed tattoo designs were still visible. These weren't primitive scratch marks. They were sophisticated, flowing patterns, body art that predates most things we'd consider ancient. And if ancient water systems are more your speed, then consider the Irtysh River in Kazakhstan's northeast. Most rivers flow toward warm, lower-lying coastlines. The Irtysh goes north, curving upward toward Siberia, eventually emptying into the Arctic Ocean. by way of the Ob River. It begins its journey in China, cuts through Kazakhstan, and then bends against the grain of geography in a way that still feels slightly defiant. The climate is equally extreme. Kazakhstan contains 7 distinct climate zones within its borders. The southern deserts bake at over 104 degrees Fahrenheit in summer. The northern plains plunge to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit in winter. It's not a country that does moderation. Everything here tends toward extremes. Take Lake Balkhash. This enormous body of water stretches more than 370 miles across northern Kazakhstan. Oh, and it does something that should be physically impossible. The western half is fresh water, and the eastern half is salt water. 2 completely different ecosystems, divided by the same shoreline. Scientists have hypotheses. A narrow central strait that prevents the 2 halves from mixing. Different river inputs feeding each side. But no one has a definitive answer. It just exists, quietly breaking the rules of hydrology. Then there's the Aral Sea, or rather, what used to be the Aral Sea. At one point, this was the 4th largest lake in the world, a vast inland body of water stretching over 26,000 square miles and supporting thriving fishing communities on its shores. Then, Soviet-era irrigation projects began diverting the rivers that fed it, and over the course of a few decades, it nearly vanished. Oh, what remains today is a landscape of cracked salt flats, rusting ships stranded hundreds of miles from any water, and abandoned harbor infrastructure in towns that once made their living off the waves. The environmental damage is so extreme that it registers clearly from satellite imagery. It's one of the worst ecological disasters in recorded history. And somehow, in its devastation, it's one of the most visually haunting places on Earth. Kazakhstan also holds one of the largest confirmed uranium reserves anywhere on the planet, and it's currently the world's leading uranium producer. The same barren plains that look like nothing are sitting on top of mineral wealth that powers nuclear energy infrastructure globally. And then there are the geoglyphs. Out in the Turkey region, enormous earthworks are carved into the ground, patterns and shapes so massive they only reveal themselves fully when viewed from altitude. Some are estimated to be upward of 8,000 years old. The Turkey swastika is among the most discussed, but there are dozens of these formations scattered across the steppe, and no one has a firm answer for who made them or why. Kazakhstan has its own version of Peru's Nazca lines, and almost no one outside the country is talking about it. On top of all that, the Karaganda region contains active meteorite impact zones. Iron fragments from space are embedded in the ground here, alongside impact craters that mark the arrival of objects from beyond the atmosphere. This country, in other words, has a relationship with the cosmos on multiple levels. Now that the foundation is laid, let's start moving through the physical landscape, because the facts alone don't prepare you for actually standing in these places. Our first stop is deep in western Kazakhstan, in the kind of terrain that makes you question whether you've accidentally wandered onto another planet. Inside Altyn-Emel National Park, tucked away from any major road, The Aktau Mountains rise from the desert floor in waves of pure, saturated color. Bands of red, yellow, chalk white, blue, and deep purple ripple across eroded hillsides as far as the eye can see. The effect is painterly, almost artificially beautiful. But those layers are completely natural, formed over tens of millions of years through the compression of clay, volcanic ash, and mineral deposits, then slowly carved open by wind. What makes it stranger still is what's buried in the ground here. This land used to be an ocean floor. The strata date back roughly 60 million years, and the fossils locked inside them are extraordinary. Ancient turtles, crocodilian species, prehistoric rhino relatives. You're not just walking through a color-washed landscape. You're hiking across the fossilized floor of a vanished sea, with entire ecosystems preserved beneath your feet. From there, the western journey continues toward the country's most dramatic geographic feature in terms of sheer scale. The Caspian Sea is enormous, covering over 143,000 square miles, making it larger than the entire country of Germany. And it's technically not a sea at all. It's a saltwater lake, fully landlocked, with no connection to any ocean. At the western edge of Kazakhstan meets this body of water at the city of Aktau, where the shoreline has a strange, end-of-the-world quality. No crashing waves, just flat, glassy water extending to the horizon, bounded by desert cliffs and wind-swept plateaus. Rocky beaches here are scattered with fossils, coral fragments carried from ancient ocean beds, and stones streaked with natural oil seeping from the ground. Beneath the surface, the Caspian hides some of the world's richest offshore oil deposits, populations of Caspian seals found nowhere else, and seasonal gatherings of migratory flamingos so densely packed they paint the water pink. But the real contrast hits when you move inland, away from any remaining water, into the ghost geography of what the Aral Sea used to be. At the port town of Aralsk, and harbor cranes still stand along what was once a bustling waterfront. The sea is now more than 60 miles away. The water pulled back so gradually that much of the infrastructure simply stayed in place, fishing boats included. Vessels that once bobbed in working harbors now sit on dry land, listing at angles, hulls eaten by oxidation, surrounded by drifts of salt and sand. Storms lift the toxic residue left behind by the dried-out lake bed and carry it hundreds of miles. The fishermen didn't go anywhere. The water did. And yet, even within that desolation, there's a kind of haunting visual power to the Aral Sea that no pristine landscape quite matches. It's grief, rendered in geography. Moving south, the landscape and energy shift dramatically. Shymkent is Kazakhstan's third largest city and home to well over 1 million people, and it carries none of the hush of the wilderness regions. This is a place with noise, color, and a pace that surprises visitors who arrive expecting provincial quiet. The streets are alive with conversation. Open markets brim with produce and dried fruit and spices, and the smell of wood smoke and grilled meat hangs over the older neighborhoods at almost any hour. Shymkent's roots go deep. It was an established settlement during the Silk Road era, and the visible legacy of that position as a crossroads hasn't entirely faded. The range of faces, languages, and flavors you encounter here reflects centuries of movement and exchange. It's raw in ways that more polished capitals aren't, and that rawness is a significant part of its appeal. Show up without an agenda, and you'll almost certainly end up at someone's table within hours, drinking tea and being handed more food than you expected. Outside the city, the spiritual landscape is just as layered as the human one. Rising from the desert floor like a modest but purposeful sentinel, the mausoleum of Arslan Bab marks the burial site of a legendary Sufi mystic said to have walked the earth for well over 4 centuries. The historical details surrounding his life are contested, but his significance to the region is unambiguous. For hundreds of years, pilgrims have been making the journey to this site, some seeking relief from illness, others guidance, many simply paying their respects to a presence they regard as still alive in some essential way, as the structure itself has been rebuilt and restored multiple times since the 12th century. But the interior retains a stillness that's impossible to dismiss. Visitors move slowly through the cool stone rooms, pausing to light candles, offer prayers, or simply sit with the weight of accumulated devotion pressing in from the walls. There's also a tradition, part superstition, part deeply held belief, that holds you must visit Arslan Bab before approaching the more famous shrine down the road in Turkistan. Skip this step, the story goes, and something will go wrong on the way. A flat tire, a sudden storm, an unexplained delay. Whether you take that seriously or not, most people make the stop. From Arslan Bab, the road opens toward one of the most visually commanding structures in all of Central Asia. The turquoise dome is visible from a long distance before you arrive. It shimmers in the desert light, enormous and perfectly geometric against a landscape that offers no other vertical reference. This is the mausoleum of Khoja Ahmed Yasawi in the city of Turkistan, and it earns every moment of anticipation. Commissioned by Timur, the conqueror known in the West as Tamerlane, and built in the late 1300s, it stands as one of the best preserved examples of Timurid architectural achievement in existence. The building honors a 12th century Sufi poet and teacher whose spiritual influence reshaped religious life across the entire Central Asian region. Step through the entrance, and the scale overwhelms you immediately. Walls climbing nearly 130 feet overhead. Every surface tiled in intricate patterns of blue and turquoise and gold. At the center of the main hall stands a bronze cauldron of truly extraordinary size, once used in purification rituals, now a centerpiece that draws pilgrims from across the Islamic world. People come here to pray, to remember, to sit in silence. The echo of footsteps on stone and the faint drift of incense set the atmosphere. It doesn't matter what your background is. The gravity of the place reaches past all of it. From the spiritual landscape of the south, we turn toward something entirely different. A corner of Kazakhstan where biodiversity explodes in a way that completely contradicts the country's reputation for endless dry steppe. Aksu-Zhabagly, established in 1926, is Kazakhstan's oldest nature reserve and sits at the western foothills of the Tian Shan range. The terrain here changes almost faster than you can process. Limestone canyons give way to alpine meadows. Pine forest transitions into rocky highland plateaus, and waterfalls appear around bends without warning. The reserve covers over 500 square miles of habitat supporting snow leopards, Siberian ibex, lynx, golden eagles, and populations of marmots that seem entirely unbothered by human presence. Spring is when the reserve becomes genuinely surreal. The meadows fill with wild tulips, species that botanists believe are ancestral relatives of the cultivated varieties that would eventually make the Netherlands famous. Over 1,500 plant species have been recorded here. The flowers push up through thin, alpine soil at altitudes that seem inhospitable, painting entire hillsides in colors that belong more in a hothouse than an open mountain. Now, this is a place where your phone stops being relevant. No signal, no infrastructure, just wind, birds, and the occasional distant rumble of glacial meltwater finding its way down. East of the mountains, at the foot of the Trans-Ili-Alatau range, Kazakhstan's cultural center asserts itself. Almaty is the city that shaped modern Kazakh identity, and it carries that history with confidence rather than weight. It was the country's capital until 1997, and while the government has moved north to Astana, the creative and intellectual energy never really followed. Almaty is where the artists and writers stayed, where the restaurants evolved, where the cafe culture took root. The contrasts within the city are genuinely disorienting in the best way. You can walk one block that feels unmistakably Soviet. Monumental public buildings, Wide boulevards, utilitarian apartment facades decorated with enormous ceramic murals, and turn a corner into a courtyard that could pass for a neighborhood in Vienna or Prague. Old bazaars selling everything from dried apricots to handmade felt rugs sit a short walk from glass-fronted galleries and bookshops with espresso bars attached. The surrounding mountains are always visible above the roofline, framing every skyward glance in white-tipped peaks. Start mornings with bauersaki, fried dough, soft inside, with a golden crust, alongside a bowl of fermented mare's milk called kumis, if you're feeling adventurous. Spend an afternoon in the Green Bazaar, where the noise and color are almost overwhelming, and then take the cable car up toward the mountains as the light goes golden, and understand why nobody who moves to Almaty ever really wants to leave. Speaking of the cable car, it goes somewhere worth discussing on its own terms. Shymbulak sits at an elevation of about 7,200 feet above sea level, a 30-minute drive from central Almaty, or a scenic gondola ride if you prefer. It is, in plain terms, a world-class ski resort attached to one of Central Asia's major cities, which is not a sentence most people expect to construct about Kazakhstan. The slopes climb to nearly 10,500 feet, and from the upper lifts on a clear day, the Tian Shan range extends toward China in every direction. In winter, the conditions here are genuinely excellent. Dry powder, steep runs, and the surreal experience of looking down at a city of 2 million people spread across the valley floor below you. In summer, the snow gives way to wild flower meadows, and the resort transforms into a base for hikers and paragliders. There are trails that take you through landscapes that shift from alpine grass to boulder fields to glacial edges within a few hours of walking. The light at altitude does things to the mountains, turns them amber and copper and rose in the hour before dusk, that you'd struggle to convince someone of unless they were standing there next to you. A different kind of record is preserved roughly 75 miles northwest of Almaty, on the rocky cliffs above the Ili River. The Tamgaly-Tas petroglyphs are unusual, even by the standards of Central Asian rock art, and the site contains hundreds of carvings. And while some of the oldest images, hunting scenes, animal figures, ritualistic symbols, predate written history, the most striking feature of the collection is unexpected, enormous Buddhist imagery. Depictions of seated Buddha figures, inscriptions in Tibetan script, and meditative symbols were carved directly into the cliff face, most likely by wandering monks or religious pilgrims crossing the steppe during the 17th century. The combination of shamanic prehistory and Buddhist overlay creates a layering of spiritual traditions that has no obvious parallel elsewhere in the country. The site is quiet, genuinely quiet. You might spend an hour among the carvings without another human being in sight. The Ili River moves slowly below. Reed beds rustle in the breeze. The carvings, though centuries old, still carry a clarity and intentionality that makes it obvious they were placed here with purpose, not as casual marks, but as serious declarations. Back inside Altyn-Emel National Park, the experience is different again. More theatrical, more physically immediate. The park stretches across nearly 1,800 square miles, and within that expanse, it manages to hold deserts, mountain ranges, wetlands, and steppe in close proximity. The most famous single feature is the Singing Dune, a sand formation rising nearly 500 feet from the desert floor that, under the right conditions, usually dry, warm air moving across the surface at a specific angle, produces a low, resonant humming sound. The scientific explanation involves aeroacoustic resonance as grains of sand vibrate at matching frequencies. The local explanation involves spirits. Neither version makes it less eerie to stand at the base and listen to the ground hum beneath your feet. Beyond the dune, the Aktau Mountains offer a landscape of blackened volcanic rock and twisted basalt formations that creates a starkly different atmosphere from the painted hills of Aktau. Wild, goitered gazelles, a species with an inflatable throat sac the males deploy during mating season, pick their way across the scrubby desert terrain. Onager herds, a species of wild ass that looks like it was assembled from multiple other animals, move in small groups through the more remote sections of the park. Snow leopards have been documented in the higher elevations, though a sighting requires patience and luck in roughly equal measure. Ciao. Just past the park's northeastern edge, a liquid paradox stretches toward the horizon. Lake Balkhash is one of Asia's largest bodies of water, running more than 370 miles from end to end. And its most remarkable quality is the one we mentioned earlier. It is simultaneously fresh water and salt water, split between two ecosystems with meaningfully different chemistry and wildlife. The narrow strait that separates the two halves restricts mixing to a degree that allows both halves to maintain their distinct identities. Pelicans congregate in the shallows on calm afternoons. Fishermen still work the freshwater western portion commercially. In high summer, the air above the lake shimmers with heat, and the boundary between sky and water dissolves entirely. Balkhash is also shrinking. Not dramatically, not yet, but measurably. The same pressures of upstream irrigation and changing precipitation patterns that destroyed the Aral Sea are present here too, operating on a slower timeline. The lake's future depends on decisions that haven't been made yet. Visiting it now, while it remains intact, carries a weight that's hard to shake. A short distance from the lake's northern shore, something rises from the steppe that has no business being there. Bektau-Ata is a granite massif covering roughly 15 square miles that erupts from the surrounding flatness without any transition, without any neighboring range, without any geological announcement. It's just suddenly there, domes of smooth, rounded granite, fractured cliff faces, deep natural caves carved by thousands of years of freezing and thawing, and a silence so complete it feels deliberate. The rock glows pink and copper at sunrise and sunset with an intensity that seems physically impossible from something that's just stone. In spring, desert flowers colonize every available crack, thin stems pushing up through gaps in the granite, adding fragile bursts of yellow and white against the pale gray surface. Almost no one comes here. There are no roads. There are no organized tours. There's nothing but the sky, the stone, and whatever stories the wind carries across the steppe. From that isolated outpost, we head toward the Alpine country southeast of Almaty, where the mountains hold 3 lakes of extraordinary beauty, arranged like steps cut into the hillside. The Kolsai Lakes are stacked in sequence through the northern Tian Shan at elevations ranging from just under 6,000 to over 9,000 feet. The first lake is reachable by road and delivers a scene that seems almost aggressively picturesque. Blue-green water, so clear it looks digitally saturated, framed on all sides by fir and spruce trees, climbing to ridgelines dusted with snow. The second lake requires a proper hike through dense forest, rewarding the effort with a more secluded setting and fewer people. The third sits near the Kyrgyz border and demands genuine alpine commitment to reach, the kind of trail where the air starts to feel thin and every step requires a conscious effort. Locally, they're called the Pearls of the Northern Tian Shan, and the name fits. The water stays cold year-round, regardless of season. On certain mornings, when the air is still and the light is right, the reflections in the surface are so precise that the question of where the mountain ends and the lake begins becomes genuinely difficult to answer. Cross the ridge east of Kolsai, and you arrive at something that requires a brief suspension of disbelief. Lake Kaindy should not exist. In 1911, a powerful earthquake triggered a massive limestone landslide that dammed a mountain valley. Water slowly accumulated behind the natural dam and filled the space. But the spruce forest growing in that valley didn't decompose. The cold, clear water preserved it. Today, the lake is dotted with the bare trunks of submerged trees projecting straight up through the surface, bark stripped away, reaching toward the sky like pale gray fingers. The visual effect is somewhere between beautiful and deeply unsettling. A forest simultaneously visible above the waterline and intact below it, suspended in a state of geological timekeeping. Divers who explore the underwater section describe the experience as genuinely otherworldly. Branches still fully articulated, the original forest floor visible through frigid, gin-clear water. The whole thing lit by the diffused turquoise glow that filters down from above. The lake sits at 6,600 feet of elevation, surrounded by trails that see relatively little traffic. And the color of the water shifts between emerald and ice blue, depending on the angle of sunlight and the time of day. It was catastrophe that made it. That knowledge sits inside the beauty, complicating it in interesting ways. Ciao. 2 hours east of Almaty, the landscape makes another complete transformation. Charyn Canyon is an honest-to-goodness geological spectacle, a system of red sandstone gorges running about 95 miles river, with cliff walls in certain sections rising close to 1,000 feet above the canyon floor. The sandstone here is layered, striated, and eroded into formations that defy easy categorization. Towers that look like chess pieces, arches, spires, buttressed walls that lean at improbable angles. The most visited section is called the Valley of Castles, and the name captures it well. Moving through it feels like navigating the ruins of a fortress built by a civilization with no interest in right angles. The canyon is over 12 million years old. The Charyn River is still cutting it deeper, year by year, adding new shapes to the inventory. Standing at the base of the tallest walls as the wind moves through the gorge, hearing the sound it produces as it passes through hundreds of feet of eroded stone, is one of those experiences where scale does something to your sense of self that language doesn't quite cover. From the wild geography of the south and east, we finally fly north across the steppe to meet Kazakhstan's most deliberately ambitious creation. Astana, also known during various periods as Nur Sultan, is a capital city that didn't evolve organically over centuries. It was designed, decided, and then built on a flat stretch of steppe in the late 1990s, essentially from nothing. The effect is striking in a way that planned cities usually aren't, because the planning here was genuinely bold. But the skyline doesn't follow any established architectural logic. A 318-foot tower shaped around a sphere, held aloft by a stylized tree of life, a massive pyramid of glass and stone designed to house international peace summits, residential and commercial towers twisted into shapes that look like they were modeled in software, a Khan Shatir entertainment center that is essentially the world's largest transparent tent. Everything around this skyline is steppe. The city ends abruptly, steel and glass on one side, grass and sky on the other, and the contrast is arresting. Winters in Astana push temperatures down to -40 degrees Fahrenheit with regularity, and the city has been engineered to function regardless. Climate-controlled underground passages, heated sidewalks in key areas, enclosed pedestrian arcades between major buildings, and when the snow falls and the temperature drops to the point where breath freezes instantly, the city keeps moving. Restaurants full, galleries lit, the streets carrying the particular energy of a place that has made its peace with extreme conditions. Astana isn't subtle, and it isn't trying to be. It's a declaration that Kazakhstan intends to be taken seriously as a 21st century nation, built in real time on an open plain, where there are no established expectations to navigate around. And finally, a few hours north of the capital, the landscape offers a parting gift, one that arrives as a complete surprise to travelers who've spent their time in Kazakhstan expecting nothing but steppe and desert. Burabay National Park, sometimes called the Kazakh Switzerland, is a landscape of pine forests, granite crags, and dark blue lakes set into rolling hills that rise from the surrounding flatlands like a secret the steppe has been keeping. There are over 80 named lakes in the region, each with its own color and character. The pine forests smell the way pine forests are supposed to smell: sharp, cold, resinous, alive. The air tastes different here than anywhere else in the country. The most iconic geographical feature is Geoglyphs, a solitary granite monolith rising directly from the surface of one of the lakes, its name translating roughly as "where no arrow can reach." The rock has acquired a dense mythology over the centuries, stories of impossible love, spiritual trials, cursed warriors. The legends change depending on who's telling them, but the rock itself remains constant, a landmark so visually striking that it seems to demand explanation. And so the stories came. You can kayak between the lakes, hike the forest trails, sit on a granite ledge in the late afternoon, and watch the light move across the water in stages. First gold, then amber, then a deep bruised purple as the sun goes down. The silence here isn't the silence of the steppe, which is fair and impersonal. It's a smaller, closer silence, the kind made by pine branches absorbing sound and water, reflecting light, without any of the noise a busy place makes. This is where the journey ends, but not where the country does. Kazakhstan is not a single story with a clean narrative arc. It's a continent's worth of geography, canyon and glacier, steppe and sea, an ancient burial ground and futuristic skyline, compressed into a single set of borders and held together by a people who have been nomadic, conquered, colonized, and independent, and who carry all of those identities simultaneously without apparent contradiction. It's a place where you can watch a rocket rise from a 1960s launch complex into clear desert air